This is the Podcast Lab. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
Ever get that feeling like, what am I really supposed to be doing with my life? Like, what's my purpose?
Yeah, we all search for that.
If that sounds familiar, stick with us. Today, we're diving deep into Robert Greene's concept of the life's task.
Using some of his interviews and articles as our guide.
Exactly. So for anyone who hasn't encountered Robert Greene's work, he's, I'd say, like a modern philosopher digging into mastery, power, strategy.
But always with this thread of self-awareness.
And a real emphasis on fulfillment, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's got this core belief that each of us, we have this unique life's task, not just a job, but...
It's more like a calling, right?
Yeah, almost woven into us.
Yeah.
Where your natural talents and those things you genuinely find interesting, that's where they collide.
Okay, so picture this. You wake up every day, excited to go to work, knowing you're using your best skills to the max.
That's the promise of finding your life's task.
It's a powerful idea.
And it's intertwined with Greene's concept of mastery. He says, and I'm quoting from his interview with Cosmico here, mastery is not a function of genius or talent. It is a function of time and intense focus applied to a particular field of knowledge.
So it's not about being born a genius. It's about dedicating yourself over time to something you truly love.
Exactly.
But how do we even figure out what that thing is? I mean, we're not all born knowing we're meant to be a musician or an architect, right?
That's where Greene brings in these impulse voices, calls them. He suggests looking back at your childhood, those really strong gut feelings you had, like, I love this. Or, on the flip side, I can't stand this. Those can be signposts.
Like Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, he talked about being fascinated by living things as a kid, especially fish, aquariums.
Yeah. He had this almost visceral reaction to them. Now, think back to your own childhood. What were you drawn to?
Good question.
What activities could you just lose yourself in for hours? Greene suggests those powerful reactions, they could be early hints pointing toward your life's task.
That makes me think of the examples Greene uses, those historical figures. Like Leonardo da Vinci, the guy was endlessly curious about everything, art, science, engineering.
Yeah, Vinci, he was the ultimate polymath. Greene really emphasizes this in his Cosmico article.
Then you've got Benjamin Franklin, another polymath. From writing to inventing, even diplomacy, it's like he mastered it all.
He really did. And then, of course, there's Charles Darwin.
Talk about dedication years observing nature meticulously, which led him to his theory of evolution.
Right. But Greene himself is an interesting example, too. He didn't find his life's task until, get this, his late 30s.
Wow, that's late.
Which just goes to show it's never too late for this self-discovery. Greene's own story is a good reminder that this path can have some unexpected turns.
That is reassuring, honestly.
Yeah, it's hopeful. Now, Greene's not naive. He doesn't pretend this is all easy. He knows there are real challenges.
He acknowledges it's not all sunshine and roses.
Oh, absolutely. Doubt's going to creep in. There's that social pressure to follow certain paths, and the potential for burnout is huge, especially when you're truly invested in something.
So how do we deal with those rough patches? I mean, when doubt hits hard, it can be paralyzing.
Greene puts managing anxiety at the top of the list. He has this great line, anxiety makes children of us all. And it really can stifle your creativity.
Can shut you down completely.
He uses his own writing process as an example. He pushes through those first drafts, the terrible ones, knowing the quality will come later.
So it's about pushing past that initial discomfort, knowing you'll reach a point of real flow and fulfillment in the work itself.
Exactly. He also stresses deliberate practice and seeking feedback. If you're feeling stuck, chances are you need to pinpoint specific skills, practice them intentionally, then get an outside perspective to push you further.
Greene also talks about the importance of flow state, that feeling of being totally absorbed in what you're doing where time just disappears.
And this ties in with Greene's observation that having a purpose, it actually helps us focus our energy and filter out distractions. He even uses this metaphor, escaping the prison of the ego.
Which is such a great way to put it. It's like that feeling of being trapped by our own self-importance, it melts away when we're deeply engaged in our life's task.
Yeah, it's like you're free.
So it's not about instant gratification. It's about this long-term, deep sense of fulfillment.
And that can take time.
What's resonating with you so far? What's standing out?
What strikes me is how this isn't just about work, it's bigger, you know? Greene talks about how much it means to him to get emails from readers whose lives his books have touched. That's from his Thought Economics interview.
Yeah, it's like his own life's task through writing becomes part of other people's journeys.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, let's get practical for a minute.
Right. Green wouldn't be green without some actionable advice, some steps we can take.
Exactly. He wouldn't leave us hanging with these big abstract ideas. So where do we even start? He always emphasizes self-reflection.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, journal. Dig deep into those times in your life when you felt most alive, most engaged.
Interesting.
What were you doing during those moments? What skills were you using, even if you weren't aware of them back then?
So it's like being a detective, but for your own soul.
Yeah, I like that. And what's fascinating is that Green then says, expand your skill set. And he doesn't just mean within your chosen field.
He's a big believer in learning across disciplines, right?
Huge advocate. He calls it cross-pollination of ideas. Exposing yourself to different kinds of knowledge, it can spark unexpected connections, it's like.
Be a Renaissance person.
Exactly. And he even suggests adopting the mindset of an apprentice. Find people to learn from, get hands-on experience, prioritize growth over those immediate rewards.
The learning never stops.
Never. And of course, mentors. They're crucial.
They are.
They offer insights you just wouldn't get otherwise. But approach those relationships with humility.
Right. It's not about using them to climb the ladder. It's about absorbing their wisdom.
Exactly. Okay, once you've done that inner work, expanded your skills, found your mentors, Green says it's vision time.
Okay, vision time.
You got to get clear on what you actually want to achieve. What does success look like for you?
Create a roadmap.
Yes, with both short-term and long-term goals, but stay flexible. Life rarely goes exactly according to plan.
Oh, tell me about it. But speaking of things not always going smoothly, Green doesn't sugarcoat it. He knows there will be obstacles.
For sure. Doubt, fear, social pressure, they're almost inevitable, and it's easy to just give up when those hit.
It is, but Green talks about developing resilience, about embracing risk, even seeing those setbacks as learning opportunities.
He does. He's big on that.
Mastery isn't about smooth sailing, it's about weathering the storms.
And not just alone, right? He talks about being resourceful, building your network, being creative with what you have, but also seeking out those support systems.
It's about community.
It is. And if you're hitting a plateau in your skill development, which is so discouraging,
It happens to all of us.
deliberate practice is key. Hone in on what needs improvement, then get that outside feedback we talked about earlier. A fresh pair of eyes can see things you might miss.
It's true. So Green's a firm believer that mastery is ongoing. It's this continual learning, adapting, refining.
It never ends. But zooming out for a second to the bigger picture, why is finding your life's task so important?
It's a good question.
Green thinks it's about more than just career success. It's about, like, a fulfilling life, period.
Living a life of purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Where your work is deeply connected to who you are and you're using your talents to have a positive impact on the world.
To leave your mark.
Yeah. To him, it's about escaping that prison of the ego we talked about earlier.
Right. Breaking free from all that self-absorption to find a purpose bigger than just ourselves.
Exactly. Now, Green often brings up the importance of understanding human nature. It's like another layer to this whole journey.
Another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. He believes that to really navigate the world effectively, we need to grasp both our strengths and our weaknesses.
Knowing yourself inside and out.
He even points out in that Thought Economics interview that we all have these darker impulses. Narcissism, envy, aggression. It's part of being human.
Well, shadow self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's not saying we should just give in to them. It's about acknowledging those impulses, understanding them, and even using them constructively.
So it's not about denying those darker parts of ourselves. It's about channeling them in a positive direction.
Yeah, like he talks about channeling that ambition or aggression into work, into fighting for a cause you believe in, even into art.
Turning those negative impulses into fuel for something positive.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. This leads us to another big theme in Green's work. Power. It's easy to think of power as this negative, manipulative thing.
It gets a bad rap, for sure.
But Green sees it as a neutral force. Like in that conversation with Andrew Huberman, he talks about how every single human interaction, it involves power dynamics, whether we're aware of it or not.
It's always there, under the surface.
From mentorships to business deals, even romantic relationships, it's always at play.
Yeah, and he stresses the importance of understanding those dynamics, seeing how power is being exchanged, even in those subtle ways.
It's like a hidden language.
It is. And it's not just about how others use power, but how we can use our own power effectively. Green even says that suppressing our desire for power, it can actually be harmful.
Interesting. So it's not about denying that desire. It's about channeling it productively.
Exactly. He talks about this in the 48 Laws of Power, where he gives all these strategies for navigating power, both defensively and offensively. How to protect yourself from manipulation, but also how to influence others to achieve your goals.
I can see how that could be easily misinterpreted, but he's not saying you have to be a ruthless shark about it.
Not at all. It's about understanding the rules of the game and playing it strategically. Using power in a way that aligns with your values, achieving your goals without compromising your integrity.
So power with a conscience.
Exactly.
Ah.
Okay, now we have to talk about seduction.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
Green wrote a whole book about it, and it's another one of those topics that often gets a bad rap.
People hear seduction and they think manipulation, trickery.
Right. But Green sees seduction as this fundamental aspect of human interaction. And he's not just talking about romance here.
It's broader than that.
Much broader. In The Art of Seduction, he breaks down different types of seducers and their strategies. But he also digs into the psychology of it all.
It's about understanding the human psyche.
It is. It's about creating mystery, building anticipation, appealing to people's desires.
Playing on those deep-seated needs.
Exactly. And while he acknowledges the potential for manipulation, he also highlights the positive side. Seduction can be about connection, rapport, even inspiration.
This makes me think of, like, how a really good teacher seduces their students into loving a subject. They make it fascinating. They make you want to learn more.
Exactly. Green even suggests that understanding the principles of seduction can help us spot manipulation in others and protect ourselves from it.
So it's like knowing the game so you don't get played.
Exactly. And I love how Green connects all these ideas back to finding your life's task.
It all ties together.
It does. He uses figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Benjamin Franklin, those polymaths we talked about earlier, to show how having all these diverse interests, it can lead to incredible mastery.
They were constantly learning and exploring.
Right. They weren't afraid to cross those disciplinary boundaries.
And Green thinks we all have the potential to be polymaths today.
He does. He encourages us to explore our curiosity, connect the dots in unique ways.
Think outside the box.
Exactly. He even argues that specializing too early, it can actually limit us.
You might miss out on something you're truly passionate about.
Exactly. Because having a broad base of knowledge, it makes you adaptable, creative. It helps you find pursue that life's task. It's like having multiple lenses to view the world through.
Multiple perspectives.
Right. But it's not just about the intellectual side. Green, in that conversation with Andrew Huberman, he talks about the importance of connecting to what he calls that primal inclination, that deep passion that's often there from childhood.
It's like that initial spark.
Yeah, he believes it's like a guide within us, pointing us toward our potential. He says, remember what excited you as a kid and see how those interests could translate into a fulfilling path now.
It's about listening to that inner voice.
It is, and letting it guide you. But it's not just intellectual or cognitive, right? Green talks about those emotional and visceral components too.
It's about feeling it in your gut.
Yes. When we tap into that primal inclination, it sparks this deep emotional engagement that motivates us to learn, to practice, to persevere.
That emotional connection is key to mastery, right? It
Yeah.
fuels that passion and keeps us going when things get tough.
It's what keeps you coming back for more.
It does. He even argues that we learn faster and retain information better when we're emotionally invested.
Makes sense, right? Like our brains prioritize what matters to us on a deeper level.
Okay, so let's say we've done all that soul searching. We think we found our life's task. But then what? It can still feel overwhelming to actually start.
It can.
Yeah.
Well, Green suggests taking concrete steps, like really concrete. Start with a detailed vision of what achieving mastery in your chosen field would look like.
So paint me a picture.
What skills would you have? What impact would you be making? It smells like a mental picture of yourself at your best, fully embodying this life's task.
It's a powerful visualization exercise.
It is. And then you create that roadmap, but not one set in stone. Break that big goal down into smaller, more manageable steps, those short-term goals that lead you in the right direction.
I like that he emphasizes flexibility because, well, things rarely go according to plan.
Never. But how do we deal with those inevitable setbacks?
How do we bounce back?
Green's big on persistence. The path to mastery is rarely linear. There will be challenges, moments of doubt. But it's about learning from those setbacks, adapting your approach as needed.
Being flexible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He also talks about the power of feedback. Getting feedback from mentors, peers, anyone who can give you an honest perspective. It can help you identify those blind spots and stay on track.
Yeah, sometimes we need that outside perspective.
We do. And remember, this whole thing, it's not about some impossible ideal. It's about finding work that aligns with your values and passions, using your skills to contribute to the world in a way that feels meaningful to you.
It's about making a difference.
Exactly. And feeling a sense of purpose in your day-to-day life. Now, this reminds me of something Green talks about, this idea of dead thinking versus alive thinking, which I find fascinating.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me. What's the difference?
He thinks a lot of people go through life just recycling ideas and beliefs they've inherited without truly engaging with them, questioning them, making them their own. That's dead thinking, and it leads to stagnation.
So it's like accepting what you're told at face value without really thinking critically about it.
Exactly. But alive thinking, that's different. It's about taking those ideas and actively engaging with them, questioning, turning them over in your mind, transforming them into something new.
So it's like being an active participant in creating knowledge, not just passively consuming it.
Precisely. It's about cultivating curiosity, critical thinking, and intellectual independence. And that's essential to finding and pursuing your life's task because it allows you to break free from those predefined paths and create a journey that truly aligns with you.
It's about writing your own story instead of just being a character in someone else's narrative.
I love that. It's a great way to put it. And speaking of narratives, this brings us back to the practical side of applying Green's ideas. It can feel overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
I know, right? There's all these amazing concepts. Finding your life task, achieving mastery, understanding power, seduction, embracing your shadow. It's a lot.
It is. Green's advice is to start with deep self-awareness. Take the time to truly understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, your motivations, and be honest with yourself about any unconscious biases or beliefs that might be holding you back.
It's about getting real with yourself.
He even suggests exploring those shadow aspects, those things we tend to hide or suppress.
Those parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge.
Exactly. But why? Why is that important? Because by confronting those shadows, we gain this deeper understanding of ourselves and we become more effective in the world. And alongside self-awareness, it's crucial to cultivate a growth mindset. Embrace the fact that you're constantly evolving, capable of learning and growing throughout your life.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. And remember, this whole journey, it's not about perfection. It's about the process of growth, striving to become the best version of yourself. That's what matters.
That resonates with me because I used to get so caught up in trying to get things right that I was afraid to even try new things.
I get it, but Green makes a good point about anxiety being part of the process. You mentioned that earlier.
He does, and it's true.
He sees anxiety as natural, especially when we're pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
It comes with the territory.
It does. But he emphasizes that we don't have to let anxiety control us. Develop strategies to manage it, whether it's through mindfulness, exercise, or even just reframing how you view those challenges.
So it's not about eliminating anxiety altogether. It's about learning to use it productively.
You got it. He even suggests anxiety can be a sign you're on the right track, that you're challenging yourself and growing.
So it's like that feeling of discomfort can actually be a signal that you're pushing your boundaries and moving closer to your potential.
Exactly. And by learning to manage that anxiety, we become more resilient and adaptable. It's about mastering our inner world so we can more effectively engage with the outer world.
It's an inside job.
It is. And this ties into Green's ideas about aligning our actions with our values. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with.
It can be hard to walk the walk.
He emphasizes making choices that are consistent with your beliefs and principles, even when it's tough. Because when our actions and values are aligned, we feel this sense of integrity and authenticity.
It's about being true to yourself.
Right. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And that creates a sense of inner peace because you're not compromising who you are to achieve those goals.
It's about inner alignment.
It is. And that inner peace, it allows us to live a life that feels true to ourselves, a life we can be proud of. And this conversation, it makes me think about how easy it is to get caught up in the idea that finding your life's task is all about individual achievement.
The lone wolf mentality.
But Green reminds us that we're interconnected. Our actions impact others and the world around us. Finding your life's task isn't just about personal fulfillment. It's also about contributing to something larger than ourselves.
It's about making a difference.
Exactly. And that contribution, it doesn't have to be some grand heroic act. It can be as simple as being kind, being a good friend, being a responsible citizen.
Those everyday acts of goodness.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of this bigger picture and making choices that benefit the whole, not just ourselves.
Thinking beyond ourselves.
Right. This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about fear being an obstacle to finding and pursuing our life's task.
Fear can be paralyzing.
Fear is powerful, for sure. It can either motivate us or paralyze us, keep us stuck in those comfort zones, and prevent us from taking risks, pursuing our dreams.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is. And I think for a lot of people, the fear of failure, that's a big one.
It's a common one.
Green believes we can actually harness fear, use it to our advantage.
Turn it around.
Exactly. He suggests starting by recognizing the different types of fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, and approaching each one with a specific strategy.
So it's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging it, understanding its role in our lives.
Right. Like if you're struggling with the fear of failure, try reframing your perspective. Instead of seeing failure as a weakness, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embrace the fact that mistakes are inevitable and use them as stepping stones.
It's a learning process.
Exactly. And if the fear of rejection is holding you back, remind yourself that not everyone will approve of your choices. It's more important to stay true to yourself, to your vision.
It's about having the courage to walk your own path, even if it's not the path everyone else expects you to take.
You got it. And when it comes to that fear of the unknown, approach it with a sense of curiosity and adventure. Stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's often where the most incredible discoveries happen.
It's about embracing the uncertainty, trusting that you'll figure things out along the way.
You will.
Yeah.
But how do we know if it's fear holding us back or just plain anxiety? What's the difference?
They can feel similar.
They can. Fear is a natural response to a perceived threat. It's like a survival mechanism. But anxiety, it's more of a generalized feeling of worry or unease, often without a specific trigger.
It's that free-floating anxiety.
Exactly. While some anxiety can be motivating, too much can be debilitating. It can really shut you down.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Recognizing when anxiety is helpful and when it's holding us back.
Right. And Green acknowledges that anxiety can be a major obstacle on the path to fulfilling your life's task. He suggests developing those strategies to manage it: mindfulness, exercise, maybe even professional support if needed, and not letting it control you.
Don't let it take over.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that anxiety is often based on our thoughts, not reality. And as we start to challenge those negative thoughts, we free ourselves from its grip and create a more fulfilling life. Now, this reminds me of another point Green makes about finding the right mentors. They can be so invaluable on this journey.
You can, especially when you're just starting out.
Mentors offer guidance, support, wisdom based on their experience. They help us navigate those challenges and stay on track. And they offer encouragement when we need it most, which is huge.
It's a lifeline sometimes.
But finding the right mentors, that can be tricky. Green suggests seeking out those who embody qualities you admire, who've achieved success in areas that resonate with you. And don't be afraid to reach out, even if they seem intimidating.
I think a lot of people hesitate to do that.
I get it. But most successful people, they're happy to share their knowledge. But being a good mentee is equally important, right?
It's a two-way street.
Exactly. It's about respecting their time and their expertise, being proactive, asking thoughtful questions, and being open to feedback, being willing to put in the work.
It's a collaborative relationship.
It is. It's a relationship that benefits both sides. And as you build those strong connections, you'll have such a valuable support system on your journey. But what about when it comes to actually choosing a path? I mean, there are so many possibilities out there. It can be overwhelming.
Choice overload.
Exactly. There's all this pressure to find the one perfect thing you're meant to do. So where do we even begin? Green, as always, has some good advice.
Let's hear it.
He suggests starting with what genuinely interests you. What are you naturally drawn to? What do you enjoy learning about? What activities make you completely lose track of time?
What makes you tick?
Exactly. Start with what excites you. But then, how do we translate that into an actual career path? Once you've identified those interests, start exploring different career paths that align with them.
Do your research.
Right. Talk to people who are actually working in those fields. Shadow them for a day, volunteer or intern to get some hands-on experience.
Get your hands dirty.
Exactly. And pay attention to how you feel. Do you feel energized by it? Or drained and uninspired?
Trust your gut.
Yes. And remember, finding your life's task is not a one-time event. It's a process that unfolds over time. Be patient with yourself, be open to new experiences, and trust that you'll find the path that aligns with your unique passions and skills.
Trust the journey.
You got it. Such a reassuring thought, isn't it? But this leads us to something I've always been curious about: Green's take on play. We often think of work and play as these completely separate things.
They are opposites, right?
Right. Work is serious, demanding, and play is, well, play. But Green believes play is actually essential for creativity and innovation.
So he thinks approaching our work with a playful mindset can make us more innovative, more likely to enjoy the process.
Exactly. Create a work environment that encourages play. Surround yourself with inspiring things, take breaks to do things you enjoy, and don't be afraid to be silly.
Give yourself permission to have fun.
Yes. And when you're stuck on a problem, try approaching it from a playful angle. You might be surprised at the solutions you come up with.
Sometimes you just need to lighten up.
It's true. It's like giving your mind space to wander and make those unexpected connections. Now, speaking of approaching things differently, Green also talks about actively seeking out challenges.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here.
I think there is one. Green seems to be all about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
He's all about growth.
He is. He believes challenges are crucial for growth. They force us to stretch, learn new skills, and become more resilient. And while they can be uncomfortable, they're also incredibly rewarding.
There's nothing like that feeling of accomplishment after you've overcome a tough challenge.
Right. It makes all the struggle worth it. So don't shy away from those challenges. Embrace them, seek them out, and when setbacks inevitably happen, don't give up.
Don't throw in the towel.
Exactly. Learn from them. Use them as fuel to keep moving forward. Green even has a name for that inner critic we all have, the resistance. It's that voice that tells us we're not good enough, that we should just quit.
Oh, I know that voice all too well.
It can be loud, can it? And persuasive. And the resistance, it can sabotage our efforts and prevent us from achieving our goals. But Green believes we can overcome it.
We can silence the critic?
We can. Start by recognizing when the resistance is at play. What are those negative thoughts that are holding you back? Once you've identified them, challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it moving me closer to my goals?
Put those thoughts on trial.
Exactly. It's about taking control of our thoughts instead of letting them control us. And if the answer is no, then it's time to let go of that thought and replace it with a more positive and empowering belief.
Change the narrative.
Yes. And as you start to overcome that resistance, you'll find you have more energy, more motivation to pursue your life's task. You'll feel more confident in your abilities, and you'll be more likely to achieve your goals.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. Speaking of achieving goals, Green talks a lot about developing a strong work ethic. He believes hard work is essential for mastery, but it needs to be directed towards something meaningful.
Right. It needs to be fueled by passion and aligned with your life's task. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. It's not just about working hard. It's about working smart. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passion meets your purpose. And once you find that, the hard work becomes less of a chore and more of a joy.
It becomes its own reward.
It does. Green seems to place a lot of emphasis on finding fulfillment in our work.
He does. It's a recurring theme.
He believes true fulfillment. It comes from pursuing our life's task, feeling deeply connected to our work, knowing we're using our unique talents to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about making a difference.
Exactly. It's about enjoying the journey as much as the destination, finding satisfaction in the everyday challenges and triumphs of our work.
It's about the process.
It is. Speaking of challenges, Green believes embracing failure is crucial. It's an inevitable part of the journey to mastery, a chance to learn, grow, and become more resilient.
It's a necessary part of growth.
It is. It's about shifting our perspective on failure, seeing it not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone.
A chance to course correct.
Exactly. So don't be afraid of failure. Embrace it as a valuable lesson and use it as fuel to keep moving forward.
Fail forward.
I love that. This makes me think of how often people get hung up on finding that one perfect thing they're meant to do, like it's some magical quest.
Right, the one true calling.
But Green suggests that our life's task, it can evolve over time.
It's not static, it can change.
Exactly. Our passions and interests can change as we grow and learn. It's a fluid thing.
It's so liberating to think about it that way. It takes the pressure off, having to have everything figured out right now.
It does. Be open to new experiences and adjust your course as needed. And sometimes, our life's task might not even look like a traditional career. It could be starting a family, pursuing a creative hobby, volunteering for a cause you believe in.
It's about finding what lights you up.
Exactly. The point is, it brings you joy and fulfillment. It allows you to use your talents to make a positive impact. So if you're feeling lost, don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, step outside your comfort zone. You never know what you might discover.
You might surprise yourself.
You might. Speaking of discovery, this brings us back to the importance of understanding human nature, which Green believes is crucial for success in any field. It's about understanding those motivations and desires that drive people, the power of emotions, how to influence others effectively.
It's about reading people.
It is. He dives into all these concepts in The 48 Laws of Power and The Art of Seduction.
Those are his most popular books.
They are. And while those books are often seen as guides to manipulation, Green argues they can also be used for good. By understanding power and seduction, we can use them to create positive change.
So it's about using those insights ethically to uplift and empower others, not to manipulate or control them.
Exactly. He also emphasizes observing people, paying attention to their body language, their words. The more we understand human nature, the better we'll be able to navigate life and achieve our goals.
It's like becoming a student of human behavior.
Precisely. Now, this brings us to another often misunderstood concept, the role of power in our lives. Green believes power is a neutral force, and we all have the capacity for it.
It's not inherently good or bad.
Right. It's how we use it that matters. And to wield power effectively, we need to understand how it works, be aware of the different forms of power, and develop the skills to use it in alignment with our values.
Power with a conscience.
I like that. Green's book, The 48 Laws of Power, outlines all these strategies for acquiring, maintaining, and defending ourselves against power. And while some of those strategies might seem ruthless, he argues they actually reflect the realities of human nature. Those power dynamics, they exist in every interaction.
Whether we acknowledge them or not.
Exactly. So it's about understanding the rules of the game so we can play it effectively, ethically, and in a way that serves our goals.
Playing the game strategically.
Exactly. Green stresses the importance of using power responsibly, not letting it corrupt us, and remembering that true power, it comes from within. Which leads us to another important concept, strategic thinking. Green believes we need to think several steps ahead to achieve success. It's about anticipating those challenges and opportunities and adjusting our plans as needed.
Thinking long-term.
Exactly. He suggests studying the strategies of successful people, reading out history, business, warfare. It's about applying those strategic principles to our own lives. Start by setting clear goals, breaking them down into steps, and considering different paths to achieve those goals. Think about potential obstacles, opportunities, best case and worst case scenarios.
Cover all your bases.
Right. Developing that strategic mindset, it'll help you navigate life and achieve your goals more effectively. And this brings us back to something we discussed earlier, the importance of learning from our mistakes. Green believes mistakes are inevitable, but the key is learning from them so we don't keep repeating them. He suggests developing a process for analyzing those mistakes.
So like a post-mortem.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? What could I have done differently? It's about taking that step back and really dissecting the situation to extract those valuable lessons.
Turning mistakes into learning opportunities.
Exactly. And once you've identified the root cause, develop strategies to avoid making similar mistakes in the future. Remember, mistakes, they aren't a sign of failure. They're opportunities to learn and grow. It's all part of the process.
It's about reframing our perspective on failure.
It is. That's such an important reminder. It takes the pressure off and allows us to embrace those moments as valuable learning experiences. And speaking of learning experiences, Green talks about the importance of adaptability in a constantly changing world. Things are always changing. We need to be able to adjust to those changes.
We do. So how do we become more adaptable? What are some strategies?
Well, Green suggests embracing new experiences, stepping outside of that comfort zone, being flexible in your thinking. Don't be afraid to change your plans or embrace the unknown.
Go with the flow.
Exactly. It's about being open to those possibilities and trusting that we can navigate whatever comes our way. And that openness, it often leads to unexpected opportunities. He also stresses building a strong network, surrounding ourselves with the right people. He believes the people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on our success. He suggests attending industry events, joining professional organizations, and connecting with people online. And he emphasizes quality over quantity.
So it's about building a few close connections rather than a large number of superficial relationships.
Exactly. It's about cultivating those genuine connections that can support and inspire.
Us on our journey. I like that. It feels like we've been on a journey just in this conversation.
Oh, for sure. We have covered some serious ground, haven't we?
But it all comes back to this core idea that you, listening right now, you've got a unique life's task just waiting to be discovered.
And Green gives us this framework, not a rule book, It's like, use these insights as a map for your own exploration.
Exactly. We talked about those practical steps. Self-awareness, building those skills, understanding those power dynamics, even seduction the way Green sees it.
We did, and we dug into those challenges too, right? Those inevitable obstacle, the doubt, the fear.
They're going to pop up.
Oh, they will. And how to face those with the right mindset.
It's all about mindset.
It really is. And that thing about aligning your actions with your values, that was big.
That stuck with me too.
It's not just about success at any cost. It's about getting there with integrity.
I think what's really stayed with me, Emmy, is that sense of agency. Green keeps emphasizing.
Yeah.
It's not about waiting around for your purpose to just magically appear. It's about actively going after it.
You got to grab it.
And it's a lifelong process, too. Your life's task can change and evolve as you do. Green wouldn't want anyone thinking they're stuck on just one path forever.
No way. There's way too much out there.
Which is actually kind of encouraging when you think about it. But how do we, wrap our heads around all this? Where does someone listening go from here?
Good question. I think Green would say first step, just start paying attention.
Pay attention to what specifically?
To your own thoughts, your feelings, to what's going on around you, to the patterns and how people act, like we were talking about. Become a student of human nature.
Turn on your detective brain.
Exactly. And then experiment. Try stuff. Get out of your comfort zone. Talk to people who are doing work that intrigues you, even a little.
Put yourself out there.
You never know what might spark that aha moment.
Those light bulb moments.
And do it with a sense of curiosity and adventure. Green wouldn't want us taking ourselves too seriously either.
He'd want us to have some fun with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, finding your life's task, it's about creating a life that feels meaningful and enjoyable. Not one or the other.
Both. I love that.
It's about aligning your work with those passions, your values, your unique skills.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Robert Greene's work, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. Greene describes finding your purpose as escaping the prison of the ego.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
It is. So I ask you, what would it look like for you to break free from that prison? What's one step, just one, that you can take today to move even a little bit closer to that vision?
Because it's time to start living a life that truly feels like yours, a life that's overflowing with passion, purpose, and joy.
This is just the beginning of your journey, and I have a feeling some incredible things are in store for you.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.